Right, so in the last 5 months, I've gone from being someone who had never even attempted a cold approach in his entire life to now averaging maybe around 30 or 40 approaches a month consistently. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I reached that point. So it's not going to be any of this red pill alpha BS that you're hearing online. This is all purely based on my own experiences as a beginner, as someone who is new to this, and literally just went out and practiced every single weekend. And I just want to preface this by saying that this is not something that comes easily to me. You know, I had to work for this. I am a very introverted person by nature. I'm not just like the kind of guy who can usually go around and approach strangers on the street. And I also live in a town where there's like not even that many people. Yet I was still able to make this work. Since starting Cold Approach, I have been going on more dates. I have been just having way more success with women in general. So I just want to say that if I can make it work being who I am, living where I live, then I truly believe that anyone can. And if you're still someone who's kind of on the fence about whether it's worth investing your time into this skill, since starting Cold Approach, I'm convinced that this is confidence for life with women. Like, sure, there was a bit of a learning curve to it. I had my awkward moments, but now that I'm on the way to learning this skill, that confidence is never going to go away. You know, I do have those built-in social skills when it comes to women. Like, I do feel like I'm able to talk to women wherever in the world I go. That's not something that's going to leave me for my entire lifetime. So, you know, even when I'm in a dry spell, even when I'm not getting loads of dating leads, the difference in my confidence has been absolutely immeasurable. So I'm going to give you my top 3 tips for approaching a girl that you've never met before. So the first tip is something which is going to sound like common sense, but hear me out because this is very important. And that's to actually approach in a high volume area. Make sure you're approaching in a place where there is a lot of people. So remember when I was starting out the approaches, I would go out in my town and, you know, I'd be walking around for a while and it would usually go something like this. So I'd see a hot girl, and, you know, I'd think about approaching her, but then I'd do what a lot of guys do when starting out, which is to hesitate, to overthink, and then before you know it, she's just walked right past. You know, I beat myself up a little bit, but I tell myself next time is going to be different. Next time I'm definitely going to go up. But the problem was in my town, next time could mean half an hour. It could even mean an hour away. The hot girls, they were just so few and far between in my time that I could be waiting. And then when the next girl did come along, the same thing would happen. I'd hesitate. I'd not follow through with my intention. I remember at the time really getting demotivated by that, thinking that, you know, I'm just a cowardly piece of shit. I'm never going to follow through on this. And, you know, maybe I'm just not cut out for Cold Approach. Maybe I'm not the kind of person who can succeed with it. But then I remember reality checking myself and saying, is it that, or is it more down to the fact that not even just girls, there's not many girls in my town, but there's just not a lot of people in general. There's not even like that many people out on the streets. Surely that has more to do with it. It's kind of like fishing. So I could be terrible at fishing. I could be like level 0 at fishing. And I go fishing in this pond. But there's not even that many fish. So those two factors combined, there not being a lot of fish and me being awful at fishing, you know, it's almost guaranteed that I'm not going to catch anything. But if I decide to go out into the lake or the ocean where there's an infinite number of fish, even with regards to the fact that I suck at fishing, the law of averages states that, you know, there's still a pretty good chance that I'm going to catch at least one. You know, I can probably pull that off. I can probably catch a couple of fishes at least. And that's what it's like approaching in a small town where there's not even a lot of people, where you beat yourself up for missing the few chances that you do get, versus approaching in a city where you hesitate and you don't speak to that girl, but then you don't even have time to think about it because 10 seconds later, there's another equally hot girl coming round the corner. And this is what I had to learn, that I'm not going to get any good leads approaching in my small ass town. So what I started having to do was pretty much every weekend, I'm traveling into the city purely with the intention of approaching, of meeting girls. So yes, it is kind of far away. It takes me about an hour to get there, but it's not so far that any girls that I meet, I can't take them out because I still could. And then once I arrive, I'm frequenting all the high traffic spots in the city. So the really busy streets, the shopping malls, the train stations, because there's just more people there than in my town. More people means more girls, and more girls means more opportunities to test myself. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a lot of people out there who seem to think that leaving the house for the sole purpose of approaching or like going to a specific location to do approaching is weirdo behavior. Like there seems to be a lot of people who think that online, and I'm not entirely sure why. And the solution that they'll bring up is, instead of doing that, instead of going out for that reason, just approach girls in your day-to-day life. Like you're walking to the gym, you're going about your day and you're just approaching. Now that sounds really good when I say it out loud, but we've got to be pragmatic here. Like if you're someone who's never done an approach in your whole life, if you have no practice with this kind of thing, you're not immediately going to start at something this hard. Because, you've been going about your day-to-day life for however many years, and this is probably something that you've never done before. And like, that's not anything to do with you. It does take a lot of effort to do this when you have no practice. But realistically, if it was that easy, then you wouldn't be watching this video. That's just the truth. Most guys don't even believe that they can cold approach. It's just kind of out of the question if you haven't done it before. And equally, when we're starting out, when we're just a beginner, we're in this phase which I like to call the proof building phase. We haven't entirely proved to ourselves that we can do this long term. We're somewhere between carrying on making an effort or like quitting and going home. When we're in that phase where it could kind of go either way, we need to make it as easy as possible. When you're starting out with approaching, you want to give yourself the best chance. And that means approaching in an area with a lot of people where even if there's 100 girls and you let 95 of them walk past you, if you're just able to speak to 5 of those girls, that is a massive win. Like that is more than we could ask for. So some other reasons why high volume areas are always better. So it's just more time efficient. Like sure, I have to spend time and money to get to the city, but once I'm there, it's no comparison. It's like approaching 10 girls in 2 hours versus approaching 10 girls in 10 minutes. Like if I push myself, I could do that purely because there are so many people there. Another massive thing, if you're a beginner, you don't feel like you're going to ruin your reputation. So whenever I went out in my town, I was always super paranoid that someone would recognize me, or I'd like develop that reputation as that weirdo who approaches in town. Even though in my recent experiences, that's kind of irrational, like people really don't care as much as you think, it's still like an extra thing on your mind, like an extra bit of resistance stopping you from approaching that we don't need. So at least if you're approaching somewhere with a lot of people or that's like far away from your home, you ain't got to worry about that. Like it's kind of like a good training ground, because chances are if you fumble, you're never going to see that person again. Like you'll both just go on your way. So that's one good thing. And another massively important thing, in my opinion, the girls in the city just look better. Now, I don't know what it is, whether it's because cities have more diverse populations, or maybe ambitious people tend to be more good looking and they're all like moving into the city for work. I genuinely don't know, but every time I go there, I'm just in amazement at how many girls look like they could be models. Like that's no shade to any of the small town girls either, but it's just the truth. So tip 2, again, another thing that's going to sound like it should be quite straightforward, but in practice, this is easily the hardest part of cold approach. And that's when you see a girl, immediately command your legs to walk towards her. And again, this is easily the hardest part of cold approach. For me, even harder than what to say, which we are going to cover a bit later in this video. But I remember having sessions where I'd just walk around for ages, or I'd have like dozens and dozens of attempted approaches, but I wouldn't actually like follow through with them. So I'd end up like walking towards the girl. I'd literally be about to say something to her, and then at the last minute, some excuse enters my brain and I just end up swerving out of the way. I think that's really common for a lot of guys starting out. So some of the excuses that I come up with in the moment: this is creepy. Everyone's watching me. She looks like she's busy or she doesn't want to talk. All of these sound like their own unique problems, but really they're not. Really, these all fall under the same category of problem. And that is simply the fear of rejection. And of course, this is the most common fear when it comes to cold approach, but I get how this might sound like an oversimplification of the problem. But let me prove it to you, this is what you're afraid of. So I strongly believe that it's not the interaction itself, it's not the act of walking over to her and saying something that terrifies most guys. Because let's say you saw a girl that you like the look of and you're thinking about approaching her, but somehow you knew that there was 100% chance she was going to say yes when you asked her out. She was guaranteed to say yes. In that instance, it doesn't matter who's watching, who might be in the background and thinks it's kind of creepy that you're going up to this girl. Fuck them. Like, you're going up 100% of the time. Nothing's going to stop you. What you're afraid of is that she's going to say no, is that she's going to reject you, and that's going to hurt your ego a bit. That is a totally normal fear when it comes to cold approach. Again, I believe that most guys are probably more capable than they realize of like the actual conversation part. Like, I can think of so many times where I've been like scared shitless to go over to the girl, but then when we're actually talking, I impress myself and like I'm able to handle the conversation very well. It is just your brain sabotaging you in the moments before, like stopping you from even giving yourself the opportunity. So we have to remember that it's our brain that's the enemy. Your brain is the reason why you don't follow through with any of these approaches. Like, if you listen to your brain exclusively, you'd probably die like single and alone with no family. That's just the truth. So the solution revolves around finding a way to turn off your brain in moments like that and stop it from sabotaging you. And there's two ways that I've identified for how to do that. So when we make decisions in life, it usually takes our brain around 3 seconds to register the fear and doubts that comes with that. It takes 3 seconds. But really, we can short circuit that by simply acting within that 3-second window. Before our brain gets flooded with all those like negative emotions, we can take action before that. And again, this isn't going to be easy. This is one of the hardest parts of cold approach for a reason. You've just got to train yourself to react instantly, to go straight up to that girl, command your legs to walk over to her before you even know what to say, before that 3-second window is up. You've just got to do it, man. Like, there's no way around it. Don't even overthink this advice. Like, just take it at face value. You just got to react before your brain starts to sabotage you. And it will take some time. It will take some deliberate practice, but eventually a habit will form and it will just be instant. It will just come easy to you. And really, this is the main difference maker when it comes to cold approach. Like, if you can unlock this particular habit of just reacting in the moment, you will get very, very good at approaching girls very, very fast. And the other thing to keep in mind is that it will get easier. Not just the reacting part, but the whole experience of cold approach will get easier the more you do it. And it is going to suck in the beginning. Like, that is expected. But this is what I mean when I talk about the whole proof building phase. Every time you do an approach, even just doing one approach is going to make every single future approach you do in the rest of your life just slightly easier, because you're looking back on all of those positive reference experiences. Like, you have all the proof in front of you that you can do this. It's just maintaining that same level of determination. So when you're starting out, just remember it never gets harder than the first ever approach. That's just a fact. So tip 3 is all about, what do we actually say? And I know this is probably the thing that most guys are paranoid about when it comes not just to cold approach, but just talking to girls in general. What do I talk about? So again, I remember starting out, I'd always go with the same line. I'd say the same like pickup line to every girl's. It went something like this. So it'll be, excuse me, like, I know this is a little bit random, but I just wanted to say I think you look very beautiful today, or I think you look very cute. Something along those lines. So that would be my go-to copy and paste line. And it seems safe. You know, it's like a one-size-fits-all approach for every girl. I don't have to think too much about it. And although it seemed like the right idea at the time, it really wasn't. So by memorizing that line, it almost began to feel like every time I approached a girl, I was performing. Like I'm up on stage in this high school play and I've just got to remember my lines. And somehow that started to create pressure. You know, the pressure that you would feel to get your lines right every time. Like, if you really were up there performing on stage, I'd go into every approach almost nervous about whether I was going to get my pickup line right. Sometimes I would mess it up. Sometimes I would stumble over my words. and make a bit of a fool out of myself. And sometimes I would absolutely nail it. Like I'd give the best delivery of that line ever. She'd look at me like I was really confident. And then I wouldn't know where to take it from there, because I'm going from having a line, from having a script, to going off script. And I don't know how to take this conversation further. Like I'm kind of stuck in my head. I'm too busy thinking about this line to think about what's coming next. And it is normal in these situations that we kind of feel a bit out of our element in, to want to come prepared. So we feel like we have a bit more control over the situation. You know, we think if we come up with the best line in the world, the best pickup line, and we deliver it in the most confident way possible, that surely that's going to boost the chances that she'll react positively, that she'll like us. That's wrong. And I'm going to explain why that's wrong in just a moment. But my solution, my counter proposal, is actually to just ditch all of this pickup line crap. Just walk over to her without knowing what to say, without having any pre-prepared line in your head. Get her attention and then just think of something on the spot. Just be fully spontaneous. And I know right now you're probably thinking that sounds scary as fuck. That sounds really scary. And like, what if I can't think of anything to say in the moment? What if it's awkward? What if she hates me? Why can't you just give me a line? And the reason I can't give you a line is this. So there's this concept called the backwards law, which states that the more you go after a particular outcome, the more you really try to force it, the more you actually end up pushing it away. The more you try not to mess up, like the more conscious effort you put into not messing up, the more you actually end up messing up. It's kind of like basketball. Like imagine we're shooting free throws in basketball and we have the mindset that we need this next shot to go in. We need every shot to go in. You know, you're adjusting your like hand position, your like jump shot technique, because you're trying to lock in. You know that every single shot you make has to go in. And that just ends up making you more tense. It throws off your rhythm and you could easily end up missing every single shot. But you know, if you relax into the moment, if you trust in your own ability to make a good shot and just try your hardest to just be present in the moment, then there's a pretty good chance that even if all your shots are not made with perfect technique, then like a good amount of them are going to go in. And that's the same with approaching. Like it's kind of weird. The less you try, the less effort you appear to put in, the more you actually come across as relaxed and confident naturally. And the other reason I can't give you a specific line is because I don't want you to come away with the belief that your ability to give a perfect opening line is the thing that will make or break this whole approach. Because you'll still have even if it goes well, you'll still have a whole conversation to carry afterwards. What I really want you to drill into your head is that what you say actually isn't that important. Or at least it's not as important as almost the way you say it, the way that you carry yourself, like your energy, your confidence. You know, they say that 80% of communication is actually non-verbal. It's communicated through like body language and your demeanor, etc., etc. And I've got plenty of examples of this. Like I had this friend in university and he used to pick up girls by just going over to like big groups and saying something like, "You all look like a bunch of Tories." Like if you're American, that's like saying you look like a bunch of Trump supporters or something like that. And because he like delivered it in this like fun, unserious way, he didn't have any nerves. It pretty much worked every time. Like that's the power of delivering your words with the right amount of confident energy. And I know that's easier said than done. Like it's kind of a cliche, like everyone says, just be confident. But that is something which will come with time. And one of the best ways and the fastest ways to build up that confidence is to throw yourself into the fire, to throw yourself into these uncomfortable situations like cold approach, where you don't have a specific line in your head, but you're just going to trust in yourself. You're going to trust in your own ability, trust that you will be okay. But I realize that it is pretty scary to still be that spontaneous, to just rely on your own intuition. And whilst I promise you it will get easier, I'm going to give you a little bit of inspiration for what you could say. So a misconception about cold approach is you have to go super direct like I did. You have to, tell the girl that she's beautiful. You don't have to go that direct. Like you could take it from the frame of, I'm just going to start a conversation with this girl about anything. And then if we're vibing, that is when I start to express intent or maybe ask for a number. So what's really good is you could use your environment to your advantage. You could use observations. So for instance, you could be in the line for Starbucks or something. You just ask the girl next to you, what's the best thing on the menu? Or some chick could be like walking around with some shopping bag. You just ask her what's in the bag. Like, it's as simple as that. Don't overthink this. Conversations can start over like the most mundane things. You got to remember that thinking on the spot, thinking on your feet is a skill. And you're actually probably a much higher level at this skill than you think. You just don't put yourself in situations where you get to display it, where you get to show it off. And this is one of the things that can make cold approach super fun, as long as you don't take yourself too seriously. Like, I can be really creative with this. And I know I'm kind of recycling lines, but I can think of like at least 2 opportunities where I've seen some girl walking around with flowers, and I'll go up to her and say, "Oh, so I see you've received my flowers." Just some dumb shit like that, man. Like, you'd be surprised what works. What I define true confidence as, true confidence, unconditional confidence that doesn't go away depending on the situation. What I define it as is just being able to handle yourself in situations that you can't control, where the outcome isn't guaranteed, but you're just able to trust in yourself that things will work out okay, that you'll be okay regardless of the outcome. That's true confidence, people. So that is all from me today, bro. I put a lot of like thought and effort into this video. This is extremely based on my own experiences. So I really hope that it helped you out in some way. Take care, man. I'll see you in the next one.